Good people, what's up? What's good, y'all, man? I'm blessed to be your host, Caleb Smith. We are back for another edition of Chillin With Caleb, y'all. It's always an honor being able to sit and talk with you all, build community. I'm seeing that we're about to push up on 40,000 subscribers. That's no small feat. So before we even get into today's episode, I just want to genuinely say thank you to you all from the bottom of my heart. We're going to keep growing this platform because of amazing individuals such as yourself who always taps in, shows love. So thank y'all, man. We about to have a phenomenal discussion today. We about to have a great conversation. But before we even move that forward, I just want to say thank you for all that you do. So let's get this thing started. As you guys are probably already well privy to, the great Shannon Sharpe, Hall of Famer, he's been killing it, media mogul, all of those things. Recently fell short and was fired from ESPN. It was very unfortunate to see because his brother Sterling, being his older brother that always showed him love, always led by example, seeing his beautiful Hall of Fame speech talking about leading by example, being that role model for his brother so he didn't have to look outside of the home. But to then now see Shannon become this cautionary tale. I'm from Georgia, so, Shannon Sharpe was always mentioned in those conversations of great athletes. Always seeing him, of course, on the Broncos where he got his 2 back-to-back Super Bowls. That's one of my favorite teams of all time. I used to love the Broncos growing up. I used to love Jake Plummer. I know that was after Shannon's time or back to Shannon's time when he ended his career. But, Shannon was on some great teams. Terrell Davis, they had Steve Atwater, John Elway. The list just keeps going on and on. Rod Smith, Ed McCaffrey. And seeing Shannon be arguably, if not the greatest, one of the greatest tight ends of all time, seeing what he has done for his media platform, Shay Media, and then to now see that you can build something up so easily, or not so easily, you can build something up that takes such hard work and it tears down so easily, rather, is a true cautionary tale for so many young black men because we have to understand sexual discipline. We had Professor Odie on the platform, I believe, back in April or May or so, and he talked about this scandal, but we didn't know that Shannon would be fired. There were whispers from Mark Lamont Hill. I remember he said that he heard from ESPN execs and inside sources that Shannon would be fired. He referred to this a few months prior, and he was correct. I had the same feeling as well, because as a black man, we already have 2 strikes on us. And if you give them something like that, that is that nail in the coffin. Now, the beauty of this situation, if we further analyze it, is that Shannon has his own platform. And by him having his own platform, he can land smoothly on his feet. However, the various opportunities, the money, the impact, the image, all these things were consequently damaged severely. And it may be to a point where it's irreparable. Only time will tell when it comes to that. But seeing that as a young black man, and for black men in general, we can build, you put your blood, sweat, and tears into something. Shannon even admitted that he made more money doing media than he did playing football. And he put in so much time, so much energy. And to be here at this standpoint and to lose it to a woman that didn't have to put in the work that you had to put in, that didn't have to put in the time, that didn't have to start off in that shack in South Georgia, rural Georgia in that heat, no indoor plumbing. She didn't have to go through those things, but she got your resources. And that's what I want so many young black men to understand, that we have to choose very carefully who we lay down with. We hyperfixate on sex. Everything around us is this hypersexual society now. We're scrolling on social media, people's explore pages, everything's link in bio, everything's this OnlyFans, that thing. On Twitter, that's basically a P-word site, if you know what I mean. So you have to move carefully as men, and you can't become desensitized to sex. Because once we become desensitized to sex, we become desensitized to good decisions. And so many times as men, we don't realize that we are prey too, right? We think throughout society, because this is a man's world, that we run things, that we have power, especially if you put a few dollars in a man's pocket. But what we have to understand is just off of one interaction or a few interactions of pleasure could end your entire life and your lifestyle off of making one bad decision. We have to start moving like we are one decision away from everything being taken away from us, because it is. As men, especially when we're growing up, we're taught to go out there, have a bunch of women. That's cool. Do all of those things. But in my own personal opinion, I think by doing that, we actually make our lives more dangerous because we keep putting ourselves in dangerous situations that might not lead to anything good. And there's like even simple things that I think about sometimes, right? Of being married. That is this protector over me. That's that hedge of protection, right? Because I'm not always outside. I'm not always, yearning to be at this club, that club. And yes, although we do have a very popular and successful venue, event space here in Atlanta, I'm really just in and out. Like I hand people the keys and leave because I'm not really about that, right? And I think it's something about being grounded when you have that good, solid woman at home, that good, solid Black woman more specifically, to protect you. And that makes you have more structure in life because I got to get back home. So you start being more efficient throughout your day, right? You start thinking about, okay, I need to, before I spend an hour at the gym, I got to cut this workout into 30 minutes, which means in between sets, I can't be talking. I got to be boom, 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 boom. And now you start getting in an even better workout. You start becoming more focused. Then once you get done with that, okay, when you go out, when you have business meetings, things like that, you're just there for that meeting. You're not there to hang out. You're not there to do any of that. And then what that does is it makes people respect you even more because it's like, that brother, he's on a mission. He's efficient. He's in and out. There's no fluff. He's not doing things just to be around. And that also protects you. LeBron James, that's one of my favorite examples, seeing how he has Savannah. Of course, we don't know every conversation that happens behind closed doors, but seeing that he was able to build his brand, and not only build his brand, but build up his friends' brands as well. But he stayed structured at that home. That home was that solid foundation. The great author, Jason Wilson, man, he had a great segment on the Shannon Sharpe incident and that issue. And hearing what he had to say, he had one Bible verse in particular that really, really sat with me. Proverbs 25:28. Proverbs chapter 25, verse 28. A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls. That's the part. Like, we're in this current space where so many men are talking about red pill stuff and being this alpha male, but we can't control ourselves when it comes to sex. And we don't even realize how weak that makes us look. Because if you ever noticed, if a woman tried to seduce you in the past, right, and you stayed on your square and you didn't fold to that, or you didn't flirt with this woman that was trying to flirt with you, or you didn't do any of that, you notice that it kind of makes them be like, oh, dang, he's different. Because typically that works on so many men. So we have to go in with that mindset of, I got to be focused. I think about King David in the Bible. Seeing him, you talk about a brother that was after God's own heart, great brother, hero, all of these things, but he fell short. Bathsheba, seeing her bathing, that got him. Uriah, now I put him on the front lines. One of my men, I put him on the front line to die so I can continue sleeping with this man's wife. Talking about King David, what was his downfall? Women. King Solomon, women. Had this old head tell me, man, every downfall of a man, a woman is involved. And study how he fell short when it came to women. You can lose a lot of women by not being focused. And that's our biggest thing. Like, we don't want to come into a space of, you work so hard to build something. You give your blood, sweat, and tears, but you don't move like you work so hard to build it. That's what scares me. That's the mindset, that's the overall mentality that we have to have, that we can lose everything that we built if we don't approach it from a mindset of, I could lose this, I'm vulnerable. Every day we're vulnerable when we go out there. So seeing Shannon, we don't laugh at the brother, we study it, we look at it. Minister Farrakhan, the Honorable Minister Farrakhan, he said that a plethora of times. We don't laugh when we see a brother fall, but we have to study that fall. We see it with Puff as well. We can't allow for success to intoxicate our common sense. We have to understand that, especially once you reach a certain status, everything is transactional. When people meet you, when women want to be with you, it's all transactional. So you have to really see who's for you and who's not, and you have to have a spirit of discernment. And in that moment, holding our brother Shannon accountable, that was poor decision making. Already off the rip, you're contacting an OnlyFans model, so that's strike one. Then the race play, that strikes 2 and 3 right there. big black babies, the verbiage, and this roots back to the big black man. As black people, we have got to understand that this is warfare every day. This is racial warfare. Whether we like it or not, whether we want to say it or not, this is what this is. And this is another form of that warfare of taking our resources, taking our best and brightest, is they will come after you with every tool that's needed to destroy yourself. I remember Tupac's mom said that in the film, All Eyes on Me, and that really resonated with me. And that's what we have to really think about, is that we have to move correctly. We have to understand, and as young men, to make good decisions. And we might need to start identifying our wives at an earlier age. That's another part of the conversation that has to be had. We can't waste so many years just out and about being with this one, with that one. We got to start honing in. I know people talk to women like that, but we got to start talking to ourselves like that as well. It's okay. We got to start moving with intention. Because if we do not, then you start stacking up on baby mamas. You start stacking up on this, on that, bad situations. You don't know. You could be fooling with this random girl who got a man. Then you pull up to the house. He might try to come in because he feeling so. It's too much going on. We got to know what to look for in our black women. And we have to appreciate our black women. And we have to appreciate ourselves. We have to build up ourselves and hold ourselves accountable as black men with each other. Because behavior like this is becoming too common. These stories, these cautionary tales are becoming way too common. Peace, family. Let me tell you about this new great tool called Peep. If you're a creator looking to monetize your content or someone who sells digital products, Peep is the most useful tool for you, especially for getting you paid. All you have to do is just upload your content and share the links it generates for you directly to your followers. Tap in and even check me out on Peep as well. But yeah, man, these cautionary tales are way too common. And we've seen so many stories from lynching stories, especially here in the South, from lynching stories, from towns being burned down, all because of the main interaction between the black man and the white woman. And we see the crazy stereotypes. I know you guys have probably seen the King Kong pictures and, that being compared to Braun years later. But I really want for us to analyze these things, because this is what's used in the court of law when you have a Shannon Sharpe in the young model, I would say. So those are things that we really have to look at. And as black men, we have to move right. We have to move with a sense of urgency, a sense of vulnerability, of knowing that by me moving in this particular way of constantly going out, constantly being around this crowd, constantly trying to be with these type of women, it's only going to lead to destruction. And when we lead from a mindset of lust, that's what's going to happen to you every single time. And I know everybody talks about post, clarity, but I think that that's a real thing. And we got to have that before you even go through that moment. Is okay, as men, especially as black men, we got to start weighing pros and cons entering every situation. We got to start really asking ourselves on a deeper level, when you're looking at that woman, once I'm done with this act, am I going to be okay with myself? And am I going to be okay with our relationship dynamic amongst each other moving forward? Do I really even want to put myself in this person's world? Do I want to have this person in my world? There are a litany of questions that we could go down and pros and cons before we even do that. And I think that we got to start valuing our bodies as well. We have to value our own bodies. As young black men, we got to understand that it's not good for us to be with this, that, and the third. And eventually we do have to start settling down. We do. We can't always be out and about, man, because it's going to lead to trouble. There's nothing good for you out there. There's nothing crazy outside, any of that. And I'm not saying don't live your life as a young man. No, live your life, experience the world. But I think around 26, 27, it's time to start thinking deeper. I mean, it's only so many parties you can go to. It's only so much fun you can have. And until you've experienced that fun of being around your wife every day, looking into her eyes, being around your family, your nephews, if you have children, being around your children, just being around your family, just being based. Fall in love with yourself. Fall in love with other things outside of sex all the time. Because then what happens is that becomes your main thing each day. That becomes that main motivating factor for you every single day. You're not doing things to better yourself, get closer to God, become the best person that you could possibly be, becoming the best black man you could possibly be. Nah, I'm just trying to get this. You just a squirrel chasing the nut. Pun intended, because that's what happens. We're just running around, and eventually that squirrel is going to get hit by a car. And that's what we got to think about ourselves. If we're always going around chasing that thing and making that thing the top priority on our list, you're going to live a lonely life. Because as you start to get older, those women are done playing those games. Yeah, you might still find a few birds here and there, but they're not going to have as much motion as the other ones. The same way how our women find out when they get older with the men. That selection pool gets worse and worse, right, each year. But it's the same for us as men. But we don't talk about that because that's not coming from a man's leading perspective, right? But no, it's true. We got to start moving right. And we got to start choosing right. Because if we complain about the women, we got to choose right too. Because if we're the man, if we're the leader, if we're at the top, we got to take accountability starting at the top. Comes with much responsibility. So Shannon Sharpe is a young black man, cautionary tale. You have everything in the world, seeing him broken down with his brother. And they're right there side by side, Hall of Fame speech. But he's broken. His heart is broken. Because he feels like he embarrassed his family's name. He feels like he embarrassed his brother. And he knows that he squandered a great opportunity. You're talking about a $100 million podcast deal that was on the table. ESPN just renewed his contract. He went from leaving Fox Sports, not knowing what was next, to now he's the top dog at Cat Williams interview. Sponsorship dollars left and right. And now all of that is potentially squandered off of making one bad decision. And I promise you, if somebody sat in front of him today, if God sat in front of him today and told him, listen, if you sleep with this woman, this is what's going to happen. If you even get acquainted to her, this is what's going to happen. I promise you, he wouldn't do it. So that's how we have to think as black men when we go throughout this world, when we're dating, when we're having sex, all these things. Am I okay with the consequences? And if you are okay, knock yourself out. But if you know deep down inside that you're actually trying to build something, go somewhere, you really got to ask yourself, am I okay with the outcome? So with Shannon, we don't disparage the brother. We have to study this, because if we don't study it, history will repeat itself. So we have to learn from our previous mistakes. But as black men, we have to go in with the mindset of knowing you have everything stacked against you. Once you become successful, the other side's job is to make sure that you're not successful anymore. And not only to make sure that you're not successful, we're going to leech off of your talent, and then we're going to take your resources that you made us. We're going to take those resources back. Just another form of slavery, just by a different name. But we pray for the brother. We wish him truly the best, and study this as a cautionary tale. About to hop into the next segment, y'all. I thank you guys. I appreciate y'all. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, we about to get into the next segment. Let's do it. Last segment, I talked about slavery by a different name. And I was thinking about it, in between. I'm like, man, that was actually perfect, because we see another occurrence of that with Jerry Jones and Micah Parsons. Those negotiations, that's hilarious, man. Seeing that Jerry Jones doesn't want to pay Micah Parsons what he's worth. I think he wants somewhere between that ballpark. I know 40, 50 mil. He deserves that. No state income tax. I think around like 41 M's. But he deserves that, man. And seeing how Jerry Jones has moved, especially the Colin Kaepernick situation, that exposed any thoughts, if you had any doubts or, try to give him the benefit of the doubt, you couldn't. The civil rights photo that we all know with the Little Rock 9, he was just around, but you're clearly there involved. But yeah, man, we're talking about an old white man from Arkansas, owns the Dallas Cowboys, avid Trump supporter. You know who his base is. And every single time when it's time to pay black players, we can go to Emmitt Smith, who had to sit out the first two games in the 90s. And I think that's the year that they either went back-to-back or three-peated. Cowboys fans, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And Emmitt sat out the first two games. They started off 0-2, and they won every single game after that once Emmitt came back, once Jerry signed that contract. They had to start off 0-2, and then they won every game after that, I think. And I think they went 14-2 that year and won the Super Bowl. Maybe could have been undefeated if you had Emmitt signed to that contract. So Emmitt had to sit out 2 games of the regular season, y'all, not the preseason back then in the 90s, which was unprecedented, just to get his contract, just to get his money. And Emmett, no doubt, besides Barry Sanders, during that time was the best running back in the league. Super Bowl champion. Got you a Super Bowl. This is the same guy that Jimmy Johnson basically fired him because you got mad about egos. Imagine what the Cowboys would have been if they never fired Jimmy Johnson. This is the type of egotistical man that we're dealing with, just for me to give y'all some context before we cover Micah Parsons. And this is the same man that didn't want to pay Dak Prescott, constantly pushed his contract back. So then you had to pay him more because you pushed it back being cheap. CeeDee Lamb took forever to pay him. Top 5 receiver in the league. Tony Romo paid, no problem. Jason Witten paid, no problem. When they say America's team, they're more specifically talking about white America. Anytime you hear them mention middle America, any of those things, it's Texas. You see the white Cowboys, Chris Christie, rather, at the games. Trump supporter. He's checking off all the boxes. And we try to ignore for so long, but you can't ignore it. You can't ignore it. And seeing how he treats his black players, and then to call Michael, it's just things like that, y'all. It really makes me question football a lot. Like, the older I'm getting, football is just another form of slavery to me. You have black players sacrificing their bodies left and right. They still get no guaranteed contracts. Predominantly black, mostly black league. But when you start going up to the higher levels that have control, to head coaches, GMs, owners, you don't really see black people like that. And these players have a career expectancy of 3 years. Think about that. You have guys like a Lorenzo Carter, who just retired, went to Norcross High School. He's a football beast, went to UGA, dog, league, all of that. And he's retired at 29. What are you going to do with the rest of your life at 29? He's 1 year older than me. What are you going to do for the rest of your life? Do you know who you are? And what people don't realize is a lot of these guys don't make as much money as what you think they do. So, like, when you see an everyday guy that's not a superstar, his contracts each year, maybe 3 to 10 million max, 10 million max. And out of that 10 million, you still got to pay jock tax. You still has to pay, got to pay your management, taxes, all of those things, expenses. So, like, take away home money might be out of a 10 million deal, maybe 4 million. There's everyday people walking around, you know what I mean, who make that money, but they make that money for 30 plus years, not for a 1 year contract. And then it's back to square one. So that's not life-changing money. That's money you can still blow through. And we talked about Shannon Sharpe earlier. Imagine if you have a baby mama, got kids, things like that. So they're paying child support. You feel what I'm saying? And then you're still trying to keep up that lifestyle while still putting your body on the line. So all these things add up over time. So what we got to understand is I don't really side with the owners. I'm all for the players getting as much money as possible, because as an owner, you can make money off of this franchise till the day you die, and then you can pass it down to your kids generationally. For me, myself, I have to make as much money as I can possibly make in this moment in time, because this is the highest earning potential that I will have in my life as a pro athlete is right now. And to have an owner play with that shows you how they feel about you. I still want for you to get your butt out there so I can sell them tickets. I'm going to sell your jerseys, all of that, but I'm not going to pay you what you're worth. There could be somebody making $40 million a year and you're the best at what you do, but I'm going to pay you 17. That's what people don't realize when they try to say, oh, but they're pro athletes, they make millions. Look at that disparity. A TJ Watt could be making $41 million, and a Micah Parsons could be still on his rookie deal making around $10 to $17 million. But then each year you're going to tell him that he's getting older. Each year you're going to tell him that he's not the same, that he lost a step. So that's why I say it's very important for young black athletes to have financial literacy, to have a plan going into the league that, hey, I want to play for this amount of years. I want to make this much money. I want to make this many contracts. So I have 2 to 3 big deals, save this bread, start some real estate, start this. That's how we got to start moving. That's how young black athletes have got to start moving, because these owners are trying to pay you less and less, and they're trying to make more and more. We see it even in the NBA with that second apron deal. Now we see role players have to settle for low deals again. Unlike in the past 5-7 years ago, they were signing supermax deals almost, which was great, because now you got role players like a KCP getting $180M, But now they're only offering this player 15 million. Wow, that is huge. That's crazy. So again, we have to understand that this thing in life as black men, as black people, white supremacy is around you every single day. We have to understand how to operate within this system. And we have to do for self. Even in their system, we still have to do for self and find ways to do for self. Get with the right people, build the right things. But Jerry Jones, man, he has destroyed that franchise. Dallas Cowboys, I think about it all the time. It would be insane if they were actually winning Super Bowls. But white supremacy is a funny thing. They would rather fail their way than win in a group collaborative effort because they can't give to you. They don't want to, because if they give to you, you'll surpass. So Jerry would rather have control, even with his own constituents, egotistical. And imagine that. Those were the type of people. Those were the slave masters on the plantation. Egotistical. They had to do it their way. And we still see that reflecting in corporate America, in sports. They will rather fail and burn this thing to the ground their way than give people their flowers, take a step back, and let the people who are actually qualified run this thing. Imagine if they had a real GM. Imagine if they had a real team president. So it's so many things structurally that's messed up. But then we see this in society right now. Who else runs it like that? Donald Trump. I got to be the star. I have to be in all the press conferences. Jerry Jones, same thing. When do you see an owner doing press conferences after the game? Post-game press conferences as the owner, like he played. So we see this. That is the white male ego. It's fragile, but it's egotistical. It's narcissistic. It has to be up front. It has to be seen, has to be recognized, has to take the credit. It's the most important part. They have to take the credit. We see that all throughout history. Because in all actuality, they're really cowards. FDR, or not FDR, the relative of FDR, Teddy Roosevelt, falsely took credit in Cuba as well. You guys can look that up. It was Black Buffalo Soldiers who actually led the way, and Teddy Roosevelt took credit. So we see this same common theme throughout life. But we have to know as black people that we live in a white supremacist society. It's not saying that we're conceding to that, but that's the reality that we live in. Like we were talking about with Shannon Sharpe, this still applies to sports. Our athletes have to understand that. Micah, I'm proud of you for demanding that trade now. He's like, hey, if you don't want to pay me, I'm out. But that's how we got to start moving. Make your money. Don't think team first, because it's not really a team. You are all your own corporations. Of course, you want to win. That's nice. But I'd rather have my bread. Even Paul Pierce said that. He said, don't get it twisted, man. We got to get the money first. That's more important. Taking care of your mom, your family, your dad, your children, your wife, your community. That's a beautiful thing. And you do that by you making sure that you're paid properly for your talents. Yeah, man. So Micah Parsons, shout out to you. Jerry Jones, Cowboys fans. I don't see how you guys still go and support the team, but I just get white supremacist vibes every single day. And if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, 10 times out of 10, it's a duck. So that's how I feel about Jerry Jones and the whole Micah Parsons situation. Pay that man, young black athletes, get your bread, keep it pushing. But thank y'all for tuning in. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe, and we'll be on to the next segment. Peace. What's good, y'all? We are back. I know everybody's talking about Joe Budden in the podcast world, and I love it. With the whole 20 million off of Patreon, New York Times article. I loved it, though, because seeing that report of Joe Budden and his Patreon numbers, I loved it because it shows the power of independence. As you guys know, we are a Black-owned, independent media platform. I'm here in Atlanta. And, starting this thing off was not easy. You're starting with 0 subscribers. You're starting with no name. And you're just steadily building. And seeing somebody that built his own infrastructure, did it his way, unconventionally. I love that because it shows real pioneering, especially in this Black media space. And it also shows the power of you guys, because I think so often people forget, everyday people, you drive this machine that we call society every single day. If you aren't tuning in and watching those NFL games that's about to get back started, if you're not watching college football, NBA finals, if you're not watching Love Island, let's just put it on that level. Shout out to all the ladies and the fellas now. they need your eyeballs, they need your attention. So seeing a Black man build his own audience, build his own core community fan base shows us, man, that it's possible. We just got to lock in and we have to understand our own strategy. So for people, especially young Black people who are trying to start their own media platforms, their own podcasts, all of those things, go in with the mindset that Joe had. Getting signed should not be our goal anymore. I think during COVID, that was a lot of people's goal, right? You were seeing the podcasting deal numbers. This person signed for this much. You saw Joe Budden, rather. You saw Joe Rogan. You saw this podcast, that podcast. But what we really got to start understanding is that those deals sometimes are for 3 to 4 or 5 years max, right? And then after those deals, sometimes nobody signs you and sometimes somebody does sign you, right? But that's up in the air. But what doesn't get controlled and what's not up in the air is that core fan base, that core community that you're building over time. And that's the part that we really have to really hone in on, is that if you don't have that community, it doesn't translate even if you do get a deal. And that core fan base is what's going to keep you riding all throughout for decades to come. Look at Wu-Tang. They got one of the realest fan bases we've ever seen, and they still support them. Look at the Clips album that we just saw that was successful. I love that album. Amazing. But why? Because of that core community, that core base. And that's what we have to build. That's what you have to build with your platforms. Or if you're a viewer, help the people that you like build that core fan base. And that's what Joe did perfectly, effectively. Seeing that number, y'all, that's just off of Patreon. It's not YouTube numbers. It's not ad dollar sponsorships. Joe has his own ecosystem. Throughout this year, I've been screaming that word from the mountaintops. As you guys see, we got the DJ sets going. We got some more projects coming soon, but I'm trying to build my own ecosystem. You guys see Peep. Make sure to subscribe to my Peep. That is similar to Patreon, but even better. Subscribe to my Peep if you guys haven't seen that ad already. But we got to build our own core fan bases. As Black people, it's crazy that each segment that we had previously in this episode connects even to this. In the world that we live in, especially as Black people, if we don't own our own, we are subject to being owned, and we can't complain about such because we have the opportunity to build our own. But it's just a little uncomfortable sometimes. It might be a little strenuous. You might have to take those licks, those pioneer licks, right, of the person that goes first. But understand that it's going to be worth that because of what we're building. And what we're building is going to be sustainable. When we see a Fox News, when we see a CNN, MSNBC, Channel 5, all these other media conglomerates, somebody had to start that. Somebody had to build that, and somebody had to pass that torch. That's what we have to start approaching our podcasts and our platforms as such. When people have podcasts, I want for people to understand you have more than a podcast. You have a media company. You have a platform. That's something that you can't even put a number on. But what we have to think deeper on is, okay, what does this platform look like 10 years from now, 5 years from now, 20 years from now? We don't think about that so much. We see people chasing interviews. We see people chasing clout, but we don't see people actually curating their content. We don't see people curating new projects, new ideas, new concepts. That's how we start to push new boundaries, and that's how we start to actually grow something. And that's what Joe has done. And one thing that I love about Joe's journey, we've seen so many different renditions of it. We've seen him fail. We've seen him get back up. But that's what the journey's like. That's what the path is like. We have to see the ups and the downs. You specifically have to go through those ups and downs so that next person can study you. Because if they can't study you and you have nothing for them to study, you weren't big enough. You didn't do enough. We have to start doing enough. We see so much changing around us. We see the Fox Sports firings left and right? We see Joy Taylor and Acho. You talking about big names getting the phone call, you're fired. Now imagine if Joy, Acho already had their platforms to where it needed to be, where people are, of course, watching the facility on Fox Sports, Joy on Fox Sports, but then afterwards, I know Joy's podcast comes out on Thursday night. Who's she gonna have tonight? Acho's podcast. We got to start doing that. We can't get comfortable when we get that comfortable media job. Man, I'll be vulnerable. I'll let y'all into my world for a little bit. When I first got out of college, right? When I was in college, I was doing all the media stuff at Georgia State University, right? I was over the honors college media stuff. I was doing the school newspaper media stuff, the history program. I was over there media stuff, and I was getting paid from each one, right? Getting paid well in college. So then I'm thinking, okay, after college, I'm gonna be straight. Like, I got this lined up at Fox 5, all this stuff. I'm cool. Fox 5 ended. They had this how can I word it? It was more of like a funnel system where you start as a young intern for year one, but it's paid. And then after year one, you go into full time. So I'll say it was like a funneling program, right? And they shut it down right before I graduated. And I was back to square one. So I'm contacting all these places, applying. And for years, I'll say for like 3 years, I was just applying for every media job I could think of. And I was working manual labor jobs while still applying for this and starting my own media platform. So working manual labor jobs, applying to get into media or a media job because I was already in it. But I didn't value having my own platform during that time because I thought over there it was greener. I thought, okay, if I just get that one opportunity at this big media company, whether it's Complex, whether it's Vice, whether it's at the radio stations here in Atlanta, all I need is that opportunity. Until I saw the people on the radio get fired and then have to start their own platform. Until I saw the people on TV or on these cool digital media platforms I thought were so nice get fired. Then I realized, damn, I'm blessed. And then I just kept building. And then once I started building, I was able to start doing it full time. Then I started seeing this, and then the studio started growing. Then this started growing. Then I realized, man, I got my own ecosystem. And I'm blessed and I'm happy that I got my own ecosystem. Because if I didn't, I'll be relying upon somebody else. I couldn't be my full creative self because I got to get this story approved before I can even publish it. I know that having this person on the platform would do amazing and it would look amazing, it would feel right, and the people need this type of conversation, but they'll probably shut it down because it's a little too pro-Black. Those are the thoughts I start having. Then I had to take a step back and start thinking, God, like, man, so be appreciative of the journey and where you're at right now. Gotta be appreciative of the journey. And seeing Joe put in so much time and effort, he did it broke. Now he's up. And that's what people don't understand. That's the part that people don't see. When you're starting your platform, there might be times where you got to be all money in. And that's okay because it's going to make it so worth it when you do make it. Because everything is yours. You own it. And that is the cost of ownership. That's why so many few people own. And that's why, we say, oh, it's the rich white people, da, 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 da. But of course, most of it is stolen, yes. But we got to approach it of the mindset of it's so few because people don't have what it takes because they give up prematurely. You can't give up prematurely and understand that that's part of the process. So seeing that man with Joe Budden and the 20 M's, I love it. Rory and Mal, I went to their live show here in Atlanta, met them at the meet and greet. I love Rory and Mal and I love their platform too. So it's like, but Joe exposed us to Rory and Mal, but Rory and Mal took that mantle and built their own ecosystem as well with the studio, with their own production company, with their live shows, live sets, R&B stuff. My Karma is Beautiful. That's a great concept that they have, which is a live R&B segment. So seeing that they even were in Joe's world, and although a person can be a villain in your story, you can still learn from that villain. I tell people that all the time. And I feel like by them being around Joe, that kind of sparked that in them. And they already had that in them, but they were able to now skew that in their own way, which was still dope to see. So I really want people to start understanding ownership. Deontay Cal, by the way, as well, friend of the show, man, great brother, seeing what he's doing by building his own ecosystem. So all of us have to do that. We all have to look around and understand, okay, how do I keep building upon this? Earn your leisure. I know people have their critiques, which are fair, but it's like EYL still built their own community, their own ecosystem. That's what we got to lock in on. It's constantly building what we already have and making it look bigger, having things better, have the vibes right, and build. Because we have beautiful people out there. I see it when you guys tune in all the time and show your love. We have beautiful people out there who want to support, but we have to have something of substance for them to support and something that is sustainable to stand the test of time. So that's what we got to stand on. Y'all, young journalists as well, who I love the most is journalists who actually do this for the craft, for the love, such as myself. Keep doing what you guys are doing. Keep growing your platforms. Even if it takes time, it's okay. Keep building. Because as you see with the 20 M's, there's something at the end of the tunnel for you. So it'll all be worth it, man. But thank y'all for tuning in. We're going to get to this very last segment about Malcolm-Jamal Warner, and then we're going to wrap the show. But thank y'all for tuning in. Let's get to it. Next. A few weeks back, I'm hearing about the story about Malcolm-Jamal Warner. I want to say a few weeks back, like a week and a half, a week or so. But when I first heard about it, Malcolm-Jamal Warner, as we all know from the Cosby Show, Theo, and he's been in so many other projects as well. My man, Grammy nominated, won a Grammy, I think. He accomplished so much in life. His podcast, Not All Hood, I was tuned into that. Shout out to Dr. Black. Great interviews on there. Malcolm-Jamal Warner, to me, represented the true essence of a Black man. Malcolm-Jamal Warner expressed what it is to be whole. What I mean by that is, as a Black man and as Black men, we are so multidimensional. We are multifaceted. In one breath, he's a poet, intellectual, creative, interviewer, owns a platform, all these things, actor, he's a thespian. And then he goes from that mode to, you see him as a father. Then you see previous clips. I saw one who was real dope. Him, Bobby Brown, doing a late night show, video countdown, just vibing, doing hip hop, rapping. Then you see him in fitness. Then you see him having deep intellectual conversations. But then he's soft with his daughter and loving towards his wife. This is what it means to be a Black man. I can be all of these things, but I'm still strong. I'm still assertive, but I can still be vulnerable, and I can still be loving. And I still have foundation. Malcolm-Jamal Warner, to me, represents what it looks like when a Black man has a solid foundation around him. What it looks like when a Black man has a woman anchoring him down in a good way. And I remember when he first passed, my mom said, man, he reminded me of you so much, Caleb. And I thought about that because I'm like, man, so many Black mothers probably feel this way right now because you see your sons in Malcolm-Jamal Warner. You see that loving, that smile, that everything that's just all encompassing in what Black men and who we are and what we're supposed to be and who we're supposed to be. And that's who he was. He gave us substance, like what I was talking about with these media platforms. What does it look like 10 years from now, seeing his platform, Not All Hood, Nah, and how they had a recent live stream where they had, friends of the show call in and family, all that stuff, and gave great stories about their life encounters with Malcolm. And thinking about that, I'm like, man, that's what Black media is supposed to look like even after we're gone. We got to start thinking about who's going to run my platform when I'm not here no more. How's it going to look? That's what CNN does. That's what this platform does. So we got to approach it with that same mentality. What's my platform going to look like? And to me, that showed me the type of brother that he was, that somebody had a password to that YouTube channel. Somebody had a password to his podcast and they could live stream. So how we move is just of having our affairs in order. And Malcolm passing in the waters, Dr. Black had a beautiful, beautiful remark left where he had a post and said that Malcolm returned back to the ancestors through where we came in, through the waters of noon, if you will. If you study ancient Kemet, if you study just ancient civilizations, and even in your Bibles, for all my Christians out there, in the beginning, it was all water, right? And to see that he went to the water to find solace and peace, and that's what he got. And I know that, we get worried about with the riptides, all of those things, but sometimes when it's time, it's time. And sometimes when God and the ancestors say it's time, we have to concede and accept that. Lamont Rucker, he was on there on the podcast, Not All Hood, where he was talking about Malcolm and his remarks. And he had said, the same way that we talk about the fascination and the miracle of life and of birth, we must apply that same fascination to the miracle of transition. And that hit my soul so heavy because that's what I've been thinking about for the past few weeks, even before Malcolm even passed, was when do we start to accept and embrace death as well? And not in this creepy way, of course, not to be morbid, any of that. If anything that makes you accept life more is accepting death, of knowing, okay, there will be a time that I will transition. What does that moment look like? How do I properly prepare myself? How do I properly live my life for when that time comes, that I am at peace and I am pleased. And more importantly, God and the ancestors are even more pleased. I think if we start approaching life with that mindset every single day, we start becoming more intentional with how we live our lives, how we treat people, how we experience life, how we have fun, how we live presently in the moment and not thinking about what tomorrow holds or what the next day holds. And I think Malcolm-Jamal Warner perfectly embodied being fascinated with life, but properly living and having an understanding and a fascination with transition as well. Because I think that's what drives us to live so hard every single day. Like when we see the greats in life, in my own opinion, you could tell that they knew that they were living on limited time, on borrowed time, if you will. So they had to leave a lasting impact. And that's what we have to do every single day. If I told you that this is your last week of life, how would you live? You would live completely different. You would feel so free. You would live freely. You would move freely because you know that your time is limited. But also you would make it your purpose to leave an impact because you know that tomorrow's not guaranteed. And I think that that's what we have to do in honor of Malcolm-Jamal Warner, is to live every single day like it is our last, to live with pure intention, to treat people right, and to leave a lasting impact that stands the test of time. But it's a very unfortunate situation. It saddened me so much. It was crazy to see, but to understand that we all have a moment, we all have that day. But how do we prepare ourselves? How do we move properly to make sure that when that day does come, that we did everything that we could have possibly done on this earth to have left such a lasting impact? So, yeah, man, and seeing his structure on the platform, right, of the guests that he gave us great interviews already. He gave us what we needed to hear, what we need to listen to. So think about that. Like he represented how media had changed, right? You see him on the Cosby Show. He does all these things. He's killing it. He's amazing. He goes through all of that. We see this positive image of a young Black man. He's battling dyslexia, overcomes that in the school system. He does all these things, right? Athletic, cool, smooth, ladies' man. Then we see him evolve over time. He's not involved in scandals or all these other foolish things, and he just matures as a man, as a leader. Then his platform, he leaves us with his platform as his lasting project. I remember the whole media run last year that he did for Not All Hood. And I remember when it first dropped, I'm like, I really like this show. He had Riza Islam, friend of the show, on there. And I'm like, this guy, he gets it. He gets it. And he's always had a pro-Black mindset. He's always been deep in his thoughts. So a brother like that, we can only lift up, we can only appreciate and hug spiritually and pray for him. But yeah, man, I want for all of us to really understand the true preciousness of life, that every single day is not promised. So we got to leave a lasting impact on the people around us because that's never promised again. It's never promised again that we'll see the same people, we'll be around the same people, that we'll be in the same exact moment, in the same exact place. What do you want for people to say long after you're gone? That's what we have to think about every single day. What do you want people to say about you long after you're gone? So, yeah, man, that's how we have to think, approach life. I appreciate you all so much for always tuning in, showing love. Thank you all so much for always tuning in, always showing love. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Once again, I'm blessed to be your host, Caleb Smith. It's always an honor being with you all. But thank y'all so much, man. We about to hit this 40K. It's another episode of Chillin With Caleb. Until next time, stay blessed, stay rested, stay encouraged, and know that the best is yet to come. Peace.